right, guys. How's everybody doing tonight? Well, thank you all so much for being here, and welcome to Hillside, and welcome to our foster care awareness event. We call it Play a Role. And the reason for that is there is a role for everybody to play in this thing called child welfare, in helping vulnerable families. We all have a role. So our mission and our hope is to share what some of those roles might be. I am by no means an expert. But there are a couple things that I do know. And one of those things is, as you saw in that video, we all have a really, really deep desire to belong to someone or to something, right? I also know that when you step into the place that is vulnerable families, vulnerable kids, that it's really hard. I think most of us in some way or another know somebody or have been touched by foster care, and it's hard. It's hard. But the other thing that I know is that the church is the body of Christ, and the body of Christ, we are, or we should be, the best equipped and the most eager to step into that brokenness and to be a part of the restoration. We've got, if you haven't had a chance, we've got excellent desserts that were provided by Goshen Valley, and we've got some coffee. If you haven't had a chance, now is a great time to do it, because I've got a quick video from Goshen with a story of foster care.
I'm Phyllis Miller.
I'm Jeff Miller.
And we are foster parents with Goshen Homes. Personally, I was in foster care. So when I was born, I immediately went into foster care. When we decided to become foster parents, we actually went to the DFACS office and did introduction class with them, and then filled out a piece of paper saying to contact us, and they never did. And within weeks, we contacted Zach and said the same thing. We were interested, and he said, come to my office. And we went and sat in his office for about an hour. And he answered every question we had. It wasn't rushed. It was just easy. It was easy to talk to him and get the answers that we wanted. So then we started impact classes.
Goshen Homes seemed to just be present in our community. We knew that they were Christian-based. We saw that there was good things happening with Goshen Homes. So it really became a kind of a natural fit from my perspective.
Goshen just has a great reputation in the community. Everybody knows what Goshen is. Easy choice. We've been doing this for 4 years, and our kids are all grown and out of the house. And so the more kids we have, the happier my heart is.
Goshen Homes has provided an excellent support for us as a foster parent in regards to having the needed reach outs and touch-ins with the staff in regards to supporting fostering families like ourselves through events and activities, and just doing things that are helping reinforce that Goshen is there to help each and every foster parent.
I would tell people that are thinking about becoming a foster parent to really give it a lot of thought. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of training involved, but I don't think it's a choice that you would regret. I had a child tell me or ask me one time, we were in the car, and he was an emergency placement. We got a call and said, can you take this child within the hour? And he came and stayed with us for a week that time. And I had another child that we were also watching that week. So there were 2 of them in the car. And that very first day, he said, Miss Phyllis, why do you take kids like me? And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, we're foster kids. You never know what you're going to get. And I said, well, I didn't know what I was going to get with my biological ones either, but I've never met a child who didn't deserve to be loved. And I think that's what the opportunity you have as a foster parent is. You just get to love on kids, and a lot of these kids haven't ever felt what that truly feels like. So whatever hurdles you have to cross, the trainings, the home inspections, what may seem like a deep dive into your life, it's all worth it.
I would say to any prospective foster parent, make sure that you have the patience, the empathy, the love to provide to these children, just like they're yours. My situation in regards to understanding where my wife went through as she was, adopted very early in life, I became close to kind of understanding her journey and how that became her life and something that she wanted to do, and I wanted to support that too. So it was a real good opportunity to get involved in Goshen to do that.
You heard the Millers say, which I didn't know y'all were going to be here. That's cool. It's foster care, fostering may not be for everybody. And a lot of times what I found is that you mention it and it scares people. They immediately say, nope, can't do that. And why we do this event is because everybody can do something. That you may not be called to be a foster parent. You may be really great at mentoring. You have some gift that hasn't been tapped into yet that somebody needs. So we can all do something, and our hope and our goal and our vision for this event is that it inspires you and empowers you in some way to find what it is that your role is. And like I said, like the Miller said, it's hard. It's hard to step into that, but man, when you have the chance to be there for a kid that needs it, it's more powerful than the hard. So before we invite our guests up, I'm just going to say a quick prayer and then we'll get rolling. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and thank you for every single person that is here. Thank you for each organization that works tirelessly to meet the needs of the community, meet the needs of vulnerable children and vulnerable families. And thank you for open hearts and minds that are here to listen and learn and come and be a part of that, part of the solution and building this community up. I pray that everything that we discuss be for your glory, and I pray that your hands are on the connections that are made. It's in the name of your Son, amen. Feels weird being in the middle this time.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Zach. So I am fortunate in my position that I know everybody here and I get to mingle with fine folks like these all the time. But I'd like for y'all, if you can take just a second, introduce yourselves and let us know your organization and kind of an executive summary of what it is that you do.
I am Rebecca Radicki, State Manager of Georgia Kids Belong. We're a state chapter of America's Kids Belong. And we have two main initiatives to serve kids and families in Georgia's foster system. We have the I Belong Project. We partner with the state to find belonging for the 400 to 450 kids in the foster care system whose parental rights have been terminated. We just try to advocate for those kiddos and find homes. We also have an initiative called Foster Friendly, which is an initiative trying to rally the community to care well for foster families. We have an app called Foster Friendly, and it's a directory of care for foster families. It lists foster friendly businesses, churches, nonprofits, and events for foster families.
And my name is Tasha Whitener. I'm founder and executive director of Waymark, and we serve youth in foster, adoptive, and group homes ages 6 to 18 plus. And we serve them through camps, mentoring, and skills training. So we initiate relationships at camp. So we have Royal Family Kids Camp for our 6 to 12-year-olds. We're just now expanding to our 13 and 14-year-olds who are in our mentoring program. And then we have our Journey Weekend, which is for our 12 to 17-year-olds. Those relationships established at camp typically will then be continued through our Community for Youth mentoring program. And that includes one-on-one and group mentoring, and those are called our Compass groups, where we go into group homes as well as churches and provide a meal and a devotion time and activities and just that relationship, which we know our kids need. And we also have the skills training, which is Extreme Journey. And so that's life and job skills training, and those usually are on Saturdays and also incorporated into our Compass groups. So really, we're all about relationships and giving these kids the support system that they need.
My name is Julie Carter. I'm the Advocacy Director for CASA of Cherokee, which is Court-Appointed Special Advocates. We're part of a national organization that trains volunteers to advocate for the child's best interest in the court system. We spend a lot of time in court, but most importantly, our advocates really get to know the kids. And very often, the CASA is the only consistent party in the case as DFACS case managers change and placements change. The CASA, I was telling telling someone earlier, we just had a medically fragile little boy get adopted. He'd been in the system 10 years, and his CASA was with him the entire time. So I came to child welfare similar to what you're doing here. My husband and I were a foster family for many years, and we are the adoptive parents of 8 children from the foster care system, in addition to our biological kids.
Thank you, Julie. It's good to see everyone. My name is Zach Blend, and I serve as the Chief Executive of the Goshen Valley Foundation. And the Goshen Valley Foundation is a child welfare agency that serves both mental and behavioral health needs, as well as direct placement regarding foster care. The foster care settings, which we are most known for, are unique. One of which is our Boys Ranch in Waleska, that today serves 40 young men, all between the ages of 12 and 18, have been placed there, circumstances out of their control, and have the opportunity as teenagers to live in a family that cares for them as their own while they attend public school, but receive the therapeutic and the educational supports that are needed there on campus. We also have a foster care agency that's focused on recruiting and licensing families to serve children in their own home. That initiative is called Goshen Homes. Today there are 67 children placed in foster homes here in Cherokee County. Those homes uniquely are licensed to serve siblings. Too often siblings come into care together and are almost immediately separated due to the lack of placements that exist where they can be served as family. And that is the sole mission of that specific ministry within Goshen Valley. We also have an independent living program that serves college-age young men and women between the ages of 18 and 21 who are still in need of support related to their education, their therapy, their life skills, things that allow them to kind of extend their runway as they look forward to independence, despite the fact that they weren't adopted or reunified. In this past year, Goshen has launched a family resource center that's focused around providing behavioral health support to families in the community, families that are kind of right on that precipice of foster care being a reality. How do we meet their needs earlier on, ensure that they have the therapeutic supports, ensure that other things maybe related to employment, related to food scarcity, related to mentorship, what can we do to come around them earlier so that foster care does not become a reality? And that work is done out of our FRC, which is based near downtown Canton. But grateful to be here and to be on the stage with these 4 wonderful ladies. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Zach. And I had the chance to visit the Family Resource Center, and it's amazing. It's amazing the work that's going on, but it reminds me that what I get to hear, and just from the outside, it sounds like there's a lot of really exciting progress being made in Cherokee County. When we talked last year, it was kind of, the problem is real, the need is real, but it seems like there's kind of some excitement going on towards it and that there's some change going on. Do you have anything to add to that?
I think part of it is what you're experiencing tonight, that the 4 agencies that are here to share do so collaboratively. Do so because we believe that the needs that exist in our community can be met and can be done so enthusiastically if we work collaboratively. And I can't think of 3 other groups. I know selfishly at Goshen, the work we've done with Waymark and with CASA over the year and what we're learning about Georgia Kids Belong is just that. It's the encouragement to whether you're a foster parent or whether you're just someone that serves within this greater network, that there's a belief and that there's hope that despite the challenges that they can be met and that we can do so as a greater group.
I would say excitement in that the opportunities that we're having to go into homes that aren't necessarily faith-based. So obviously we love to go into, Goshen Valley, obviously, when we're like the same, like-minded, obviously, but it's great to be able to go into homes that maybe don't have that Christian influence. And so we're finding that we're having more and more opportunities to go into these group homes that, can be kind of dark. because they don't have a lot of exposure. And so we're just having more and more opportunities to do those type of things and to share the gospel and to share the hope of Christ. And I would ditto the working with these amazing organizations in collaboration. It's just amazing, and I just think the world of everyone on this stage. So
I'd love to add that we're extra excited about some work that we've got beginning in Cherokee County. Part of our Foster Friendly initiative has begun to be working with communities. So the city of Ackworth in Cobb County became Georgia's first foster-friendly city, and there's lots of qualifications for that. That means that a city has a certain number of foster-friendly businesses, and those businesses are businesses who have added an offer to our foster-friendly app. There's a picture of the app back there, at our table. So they're willing to say, I'm going to use my pizza place, I'm going to use my pressure washing place to serve foster families. I'll use what I have and the position that the Lord has placed me in to serve foster families. So they give some sort of a discount. So a foster-friendly community has a certain number of businesses that are foster-friendly, has a certain number of churches that are foster-friendly, that are doing a good job of taking care of their foster families. The community resources, like the fabulous ones here on the stage, have been identified. And so we have goals for each of those. And then a city agrees to city-wide recruitment of foster families and city-wide awareness raising. So we started with Ackworth, but now we're happy to say that we just started working with Mayor Caldwell in Woodstock, and Woodstock's going to become Georgia's second foster-friendly city. And it's kind of been fun because there's been a little bit of competition between mayors, which can only help our foster families. We've already been talking about Canton and Cartersville and some other cities, but it's just a really exciting initiative that's raising overall awareness for the whole foster care community.
I think if you were to get involved, you would find that Cherokee County is a very supportive county. We brag to each other all the time about how lucky we are to do this work here. At the Children's Haven, we have a huge clothing closet. We have a supervised visitation center where the children can come visit with their families with their parents in a supervised setting. Our juvenile court just launched a family treatment court this year, which we were one of the last counties to add, where parents can fast track to gain sobriety, to fast track having their children returned home. So there are a lot of exciting things happening in Cherokee County.
As I mentioned earlier, you say foster care and people are automatically like, nope, not me, can't do it, too much work. So I think that, to me, one of the key things is that there's so much more than just signing up and saying, okay, I'm going to be a foster family. And so what I would love to hear from each of y'all is what are some of the ways that somebody today could say, okay, I'm going to jump in today with low barrier to entry, not being a huge commitment. If they wanted to get plugged in today, what are things that they could do with each of your organizations?
Okay, well, I'll start.
Oh, you got a list.
We have a list right over there on the table. Doug's holding it up. No, we have it kind of listed by level. So we have level 1, which is writing mail. And so we give out mail at camp. We do birthday cards throughout the year. Y'all, those cards are a big deal. So that may be level 1, but it has massive impact. We have meals. You can bring a meal to one of our Compass groups. We serve 140 children and teens on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. And by the end of the year, we'll probably be around 200. That's a whole bunch of meals. And a lot of them are just teenage boys. So they eat a lot. So meals are a great thing. So we have all of those in the level 1. So there's a lot of different things listed there. Level 2 would be camp. So you can go out to camp this summer for a week. You can go to camp in the fall for Journey Weekend. But there's so many different things under that heading as well. So you can come out to camp for a day. You can come out to camp for the whole week. any number of things. And so then we also have our mentorship program. So that's level 3. So it might be that you feel led to like our one-on-one mentorships, they start with an existing relationship. So you may do level 2, go to camp, meet a child, and be like, I want to continue a relationship. And that's usually where those start. But as I mentioned with our Compass groups, you might decide that you want to serve at one of our, group homes that we serve in the typically kind of in metro Atlanta area. We're at Jesse's house, we're at Wellspring, we're going to be at Devereaux here soon, Angel House, all of those. So we're at a lot of different group homes. Well, Goshen Valley, I'd mentioned that. So yes, we are Goshen Valley. Yes. Oh, you're fine. You can. Thank you. So there's just all sorts of different levels, like I said, from level 1, level 2, level 3. Everybody can be involved in some way, shape, or form. Everybody can pray, of course. I know we all would love the prayer support for the ministries as well as the kids that we serve, the families that we serve. So if you'd like to check those out, they're over at our table.
Absolutely. Well, we have a list as well, if you'll head on down the line. I'm sure we all do. I just second that. There are many, many ways for people to get involved in the foster system. And I think we all say that everybody can do something. We have a couple ways through Georgia Kids Belong. The first is as simple as it gets. Through our I Belong project, which is our project where we're advocating for the kids in Georgia who are in the system. Parental rights have been terminated, so if they don't find families, that they will age out of the system. One thing that you can do is follow our social media and just engage. If we are always posting pictures and professional videos of basically kids using their own voices to tell their story to help them find families. So if you would engage on those posts, the algorithm on social media loves when that happens, and so those videos are seen more. We recently had a little girl that we filmed at the Delta Flight Museum. She's 17 years old, and we're just desperate to find a family for her before she ages out. And we posted that on social media and asked people just to really step in and engage. And that video started to get shared. It was shared almost 200,000 times, and that little girl, Hannah, received, I think now we're at 52 inquiries from potential adoptive families. So it's as simple as that. Sharing those videos for us is absolutely huge. We have wish lists, things like that, of course. But the other thing is, and what's kind of unique to the Foster Friendly initiative, is that if you own a business, you can give a discount. As I was saying, if you have a pizza place, if you have a painting company, if you have if you're a therapist and you're willing to find a way to get creative to say, we'll give a discount, we'll give buy one, get one free tickets, or a percentage off therapy or some type of service, we would love for you to consider becoming foster friendly. You can learn how to do that. We've got forms with QR codes and that type of thing. But becoming a foster friendly business is a huge asset for a family. It's practical support, and it raises overall community awareness to foster care.
Our CASA program is housed at a facility called the Children's Haven. So you can do everything at the Children's Haven, from fulfill a wish list we have an amazing clothing closet, so you could bring diapers. You could come work in the clothing closet. You could be part of the Chin Up program, which is a one-on-one mentoring program that meets monthly to mentor children that are court involvement, primarily due to truancy. And then the program that's near and dear to our hearts is CASA. We'll be starting a new class in August. It's 30 classroom hours, 10 hours of courtroom observation. And at the end of all that, you're sworn in by the juvenile court, and you get to pick your child or sibling group that you will then advocate for as they go through the system and really give them a voice and make sure that their best interests are elevated at the level of the court hearings. And it's very emotional work, but super rewarding.
The term I like to use is that you can learn before you lead. And for Goshen, what that means is the opportunity, if you as a couple would like to have an orientation, where you meet with one of our foster care specialists, for an hour or so, and you can hear kind of step by step what the process from that point would look like, what you would kind of expect to learn, how Goshen would come alongside and support you in that process. Kevin Scott, who's with us here tonight, leads many of those conversations, and we're regularly hosting people at our offices at the Mill on Etowah to be able to have those types of discussions. The second step to that is participating in an impact training. That impact class, it's 6 sessions, and you have to complete all 6 in order to take that next step towards full licensure to become a foster parent. But we've had several parents, individuals that have said, I know that that's part of the process, and I want to go ahead and engage in that now, even though I'm not committing to a specific timeline thereafter. And they step away from that, and they're better parents in some cases to their own children. They're in the position to communicate what they've experienced with their network of people that might also have interest in becoming a foster parent. So Goshen is open to people that just want to take those first initial steps by experiencing the impact training. So we would love for you to kind of learn before you lead, and that we would create environments where you can do that.
And I just want to add my 2 cents into that. One of the things that I found is that one of the best assets an organization can have is advocates. And so, like I said, you say foster care to people and they immediately get a little bit nervous. What's Sarah going to ask me to do now? And so to be able to speak into that and take what you learn from these guys who are doing this every day and who have so much to offer the community, and you can take that, because I may not own a business, I may not own a pizza shop, but I may know a guy who does. And so using your networks and using the people that are close to you that may not be in the space where they know about an event like this, or they may be too intimidated to come to an event like this, take what you hear and say, hey, I think you would be a great mentor, or hey, I think this would be a great opportunity for your business. Hey, have you considered being a respite family? Hey, I think you'd be a great CASA. We have a limited reach, but the more people, if we can reach you and you guys can reach your network and do that same work, I think that's one of the greatest assets an organization can have too. So I'd encourage everybody to take that and do that. So kind of my next question thing, because I think stories are impactful. And so I'll ask y'all, doing this for so long as you have, is there anything working with a family, working with a kid, working with a volunteer that stands out to you as something that's impactful? And yeah, if you got one, go for it. If not, I got a story too. So
I can start.
All right.
Very often our volunteers, the child will be adopted, or they'll find a family through guardianship, but very often they keep in touch with their CASA. And we've gotten the kids have invited them to graduations, they've invited them to their weddings, they've just wanted to talk on the phone because of the relationship that they were able to establish as a CASA. And while our primary role is obviously to advocate for them in the courtroom setting, the most important part, and that's what we tell everyone, is their primary duty is to really establish a relationship with the child. And time again, it pays off. And most importantly for the kids, that's what we're here for.
Well, I will say we have many of our kids are coming back to serve now. So we've got at least 3 that are going to be serving at Royal Finley Kids Camp, which is super exciting. So I could tell you their stories, but we'd be here all day. We've got lots of stories. So I'll stick with our Compass groups, because if you can't tell, super excited about what's happening there. So we're at a home in Marietta, and it's a hard place to be. Because the kids have been in care since they were little. And so it's just it's a difficult environment, but we were invited in. And it has been a beautiful thing. It's been a hard thing, but a beautiful thing to watch over the past year that we've been in there. It's taken time to build that trust with the kids because there's been so much broken trust that they were like, oh, they're not gonna come back. They're not gonna be here every week. But they've seen we've shown up every week. And so slowly but surely that trust is building. And so we sat down with one of the directors, and she said that, a lot of people come in and out and do amazing things and bring meals, and that's wonderful. But she said, y'all are the only ones who know their names. So, and that's important that we know their names. And they may act out, they may act crazy, they may do all sorts of things, but she said they're being real. Like they're being themselves because they trust you and they know that they can. And so that's been incredible. There's one young lady who said, I don't believe what y'all believe about God. Like, I don't believe that, but I trust y'all. And she will stick with our mentor like glue every week. And slowly, God is softening her heart. And it's been such a beautiful thing. And we have I'll tell one more thing really quick. We have a life and job skills training called Extreme Journey that we did a few weeks ago. And we spoke to the kids on relationships. So Christian and Kayla Norman, they're at First Baptist Woodstock, but they shared about just real talk about relationships, things that a lot of times our kids, nobody's talking to them about it, and especially from like a biblical perspective. So one of the girls came up to them afterwards, and this young lady actually came from our group home in Marietta that we work with, and is now in another group home that we're actually starting a Compass group in. So we're gonna be able to be consistent for her and provide that consistent relationship. But anyway, she was talking with them and she said she was sexually abused, and she said, I've never been able to share my story because I've never felt a safe place to do that. And so she shared her heart and what she'd been through and how it had kind of skewed her perspective on relationships. And so it kind of completely changed her perspective, and she accepted Christ at that moment. And so just the opportunities that we're being given right now it's really just an honor and privilege to be able to work with these kids, the life change that we're allowed to see. So
the Boys Ranch as an example of the work we do, we've served over 1,000 young men at this point, and a few of them have passed away since we've served them. We have a few that are in prison, circumstances that they found themselves in. So the outcome is not always celebratory necessarily. In many cases, their journey is still difficult. We have had a number of boys that have gone on to, serve in the military, and that's like a really cool thing to share with people. We take pride in that. We're proud of them. But what really made that possible? It wasn't because they had some amount of courage that was kind of pent up that all of a sudden, kind of showed up and made itself known. What happened was that we took these young men and we created structure for them to be able to thrive, for them to have an understanding of boundaries, for them to have an understanding of accountability, for them to have an understanding of expectations. So if you're good at doing those things, you could be a really good foster parent. It doesn't sound like I'm great at creating structure, right? That sounds kind of boring. More than ever, these children who have come from traumatized circumstances where they're always wondering kind of what's next, mostly bad. When you create a godly environment, you surround them with resources, and you put adults in their life who help them understand the importance of structure, building healthy habits, really remarkable things can happen. And we've seen it time and time again. And it starts with the relational component that Julie speaks about, that Tasha speaks about, met with for the first time, having a clear expectation of what is expected of them, and then allowing them, to thrive. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, guys. My shortish story is that the way that this event came about for us was last year. I sat in enough Cherokee Collective meetings, community meetings, where we had people from DFACS talking about kids who were living in motels. And I thought, oh my goodness, how do we not know that? You know, how can that be? And if people knew that, surely they would do something. And so started spitballing with Zach and a few others, like how can we raise awareness? So this event we did it for the first time last year, and this group came together. So last week I was advertising this event in a Cherokee Collective meeting, and I saying that please come, you never know what may happen. And Doug, I'm calling you out again wherever you are. Doug stands up and says, we got one of our best volunteers ever from that event. And it just so happened to be our financial administrator's brother. And he just happened to come. So now he serves at Waymark, he serves at Goshen. And I think what's so impactful for me to that is that it is the power of one. And you can think, sometimes I get in the habit of thinking like, okay, how do I get these numbers and how do I get this done? And you get that administrative brain going, and then you forget that it's about that one guy being here and that one guy, what kind of impact he might have. And that's the same for each of us. And that can be in many, many different ways, but it is the power of standing in one time and making that decision and who all that impacts. So I think that's super important. And I've told that story way too many times, Doug, so I'm sorry.
Love it.
But it was so encouraging to me, like that's so cool, and that helps me not get caught up in the other stuff, because it is about one. What do they call him? Jesus Jared or Jared Jesus? Yeah.
Camp Jesus.
Camp Jesus. Camp
It looks
Jesus.
like Jesus.
Yeah.
It really
So
does.
that's just so cool that came from that. So that's kind of my thing. One of the quotes that I found, and Zach, you kind of touched on it, but it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. You touched a little bit on that, but I think as a community and as a church, it should matter to us what happens for vulnerable kids, because it matters down the road. And when we can build stronger children and stronger families, that makes an impact. So, I don't know if anybody has a comment on that.
Well, these are our children. These are Cherokee County children. They're going to school with your children and grandchildren. They are going to likely grow up and be the adults in your community. So with the hope that we pour into them now, with the hope that maybe we'll be able to change the trajectory. We had a CASA that had advocated for a boy. He turned 18. He couldn't wait to get out of the system. His parents have both spent most of his life in prison. That was very much where his direction was headed. He tried adulting for about 4 months and called his CASA and said, Jim, this is really hard. I need to sign back into care. And which the kids, once they age out, have 6 months to do. And Jim said, got it. Picked him up where he was, took him to the DFACS office. He wasn't his CASA anymore. This child was now an adult, but that's who he called. And we had another boy this week that has been charged with some pretty horrific sexual charges. And he called the CASA and he said, I just wanted you to know, and I need your help. And that's what all of our kids need, whether they're our own children or the children of the community, is they need our help. They find themselves in these circumstances generally by no fault of their own.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that in a lot of cases, these are middle schoolers and high schoolers. Not only are they in foster care, not only are they separated from their family, not only have they experienced circumstances that they surely didn't ask for, but they're also learning how to use a cell phone for the first time, or they're being offered a vape, or they're trying to decide whether they're gonna, cheat on a test, or they're trying to make a team, or, they're trying to determine how they're going to date for all of the anxieties of being 15 on top of the fact that the people that matter most to you have been removed. So creating some sense of normalcy in just developing a relationship where the idea of trust, the idea of a little bit of honor and dignity, that's when it's done well. And that's why we try to speak into the lives of the church, because the men and women of the church understand the idea of their own brokenness, their own burdens. The people that have stepped into their circumstances at some point in their life have lifted them up. Maybe they weren't wearing a tag that said foster care, but they were dealing with anxiety or a diagnosis or a job loss or guilt or fear or anger, and someone stepped in. That's really what this is. And when it's done well, the ripple effect, you'll hear from Melody here in a second, the ripple effect is like nothing you've ever seen.
I'll tag on to that. And one of the things that I like to say is that kids will become whoever shows up for them. So if the pimp shows up for them, they're going to become one of these statistics that we see. 60 to 80% of those that are involved in human trafficking were once part of the foster care system. If the gang member shows up for them, that's probably where they'll land. If we, the body of Christ, show up for them, Lord willing, they will fulfill God's purpose and plan for their life. It'll be a hard road. It is not going to be an easy road, but if we stick with them, if we journey with them, we walk with them hand in hand through the ups and the downs and the hard and the successes and the victories and all of those things, then Lord willing, that's what they'll become, who God has designed them to be.
Okay, that was really, like, you're gonna have to write that down for me. That was good. Before we, Zach mentioned that you'll hear from a young lady named Melody. Before we do that, open it up to y'all. Any final thoughts, final things that you want to share with this crowd before we pass it over to Melody?
Sorry, me again.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just thought of something that I didn't mention before, was that a lot of times with these different levels we were talking about, a lot of times they will end up with one of our volunteers becoming a foster parent or even adopting. We have one of our mentors that serves out at Goshen who's adopting 2 of their young men. So, it's like you never know what God will do. He may keep you there at level 1, he may keep you there at level 2, but he may open that door. You may say, you know what, I can be a foster parent, or I may feel led to adopt one of these kids. So you never know. We've had a lot of that happen in the ministry, and it's been a really cool thing to see.
We started fostering, well, my husband was very reticent, and he kept telling me all the reasons that we were never going to do that. And then we used to be a respite family for some friends of ours, and one of our boys, who was 9 at the time, he's 32 now, said, so Dad, why is it we can't do this? And my husband gave him all of the kid versions of the reasons that he had been giving me. And our son looked at him and said, well, Dad, isn't it about the kids? And my husband finally said, okay, we will foster, but we are never adopting any children. So 8 adoptions later, here we are. But most importantly, join us. It's not just about the kids, it's about these families. Our job is to try and reunite these families to make them stronger and more whole than when they entered the system. And that in itself can only strengthen the community in which we live.
All right, so this is gonna sound really silly, okay? My wife and I, Rachel, we live in Copper Creek, which is off of Sixes Road. And Copper Creek has a community Facebook page. And people typically talk about the fact that their trash didn't get picked up or someone bumped into their mailbox. You all might have your own community Facebook pages. And you know what you can do tonight? You can go home and you can simply write, I attended a foster care summit and heard from local agencies. If any of you have had interest about learning more about foster care, feel free to message me and I can give you their contact information. Because there are people right now, their hearts, their minds, they've thought about this. All they need is somebody willing to reach out and say, hey, here's Julie's information at CASA. Or this is how you get in touch with Tasha. The little network that you have, let people know that you are here. And something good might come of that. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so Melody, we have the privilege of having Melody to speak with us tonight. I have heard her twice. She's amazing and she's brave, and I'm super excited for y'all to get to hear her story. So.
Most people growing up wanted to have the American dream. My dream started at age 12. I dreamt of the mom that held my hand after I got off the school bus. I wanted to play with the kids in the neighborhood. I wanted to hear my mom say, "Dinner's ready, come inside." Instead, I got a mother who was addicted to drugs. A mother that allowed her 12-year-old daughter to start waitressing and working from open to close instead of going to school. A mother that would steal the money that I had worked for so she could buy drugs. A mother that forced me to give up my purity as a 14-year-old girl to a man twice my age so we would have somewhere to lay our heads that night. I was in and out of the foster care system and was ultimately placed with the family from Goshen Homes. This family completely changed my world. I met this family while at a mission camp, not knowing that they would be my new family. Trent Anderson, the student leader at this mission camp, approached me and asked me about my story and why I was in foster care. I shared my story with him, and before leaving camp that day, he gave me his business card. I carried that business card with me for months. With the help of Goshen Valley, Trent and Jessica Anderson became my new foster parents and eventually adopted myself and my brother. Not only do I have a mother and a father who love and support me, but I also have 3 new little brothers. But not all kids in foster care get this chance. We often get overlooked. We long for the feeling of our parents' hand getting off the school bus. We want to hear "Dinner's ready, come inside," but instead we hear ourselves being labeled as a foster kid when we're being described. When my brothers and I had moved into our first group home, I got a call from my biological mom. I remember feeling such pure joy that she had reached out and wanted to talk to us. We talked for a little until a staff member said we were no longer able to talk. Before I hung up the phone, my mom had promised me, "I will fight for you until I get you back." Still to this day, I think about that statement and I question, why didn't she fight for us? Was it something that I had done? Does she not love us? My family has taught me a lot since I have been with them. One, that family isn't defined by being biological or not. Having a family is having someone who always encourages you, leads you, supports you, and loves you. The most important thing that my family has taught me is that God moves. Being in the system, I was not told that God had a plan for me. My family showed me the greatest gift of all, and I wouldn't have known it if it weren't for God moving through them to get to me. God wants us to take care of his people. Last Thursday, I reached out to my biological mom to wish her a happy birthday and to tell her that God gave her another year, so use it to glorify him. I hadn't talked to my mom in 2 years. The last time we had spoken, she told me that she didn't love me, I was nothing to her, and I never will be. When the thought of texting my mom on her birthday came to mind, I pushed it away because I thought I was crazy for thinking about reaching out. I thought about her statement, "I will fight for you until I get you back." Later that day, peace washed over me, and that statement was no longer crazy. My only thought was maybe this is God moving through me to get to her. Because of my foster family, and by the grace of God, I was the first to graduate high school in my biological family. I am in college to become a social worker so that I can give back. My dream is to change a kid's life in the foster care system and to show them that there is more than just being a foster kid. My brother Dylan is running D1 at Kennesaw State University, which he has worked so hard to do. Waylon is working hard to become a firefighter so he can give back. We are able to chase our dreams because of the family that Goshen has blessed us with. Goshen gave me the peace and purpose I was hoping for, and the safety and care I was dreaming of. Thank you.
Thank you, Melody. It's my third time, and it's good every time. So thank you for sharing. At this point, what we will do is I'm going to put this microphone right here, and if you have any question at all that any of these folks can answer for you, please feel free to come up to the mic and let them know. We had last year, Camp Jesus, we still remember, asked if he could take foster kids on a motorcycle. So, there's no question off limits. And this is the perfect group to ask any question that you might have. So I'm going to put that right here. And if anybody's got one, don't be embarrassed. Please come up and ask.
So here's a, pretty narrow question, but I appreciate all of you being here. And on behalf of I'm part of the missions board that Sarah leads, and we're very appreciative of everything you do, and it's so wonderful for the community. I have a simple question, because this might actually relate to something I might be able to do that doesn't require a full-time commitment, but tell us more about camp. Okay, and what goes on there? What happens? What are the relationships they're building? What are the roles people can play in there? How long does it last? Just a little bit more detail, if you would.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. So we have two camps. So Royal Family Kids Camp is our overnight summer camp that happens in June. It's June 2nd through the 6th for the kids. And so that's for ages 6 to 12. So we take them for just a ton of fun. We do like the normal things you think of when you think of camp. So we go fishing and swimming and hiking and all of those fun things. But we also tailor activities just for them. So we have a princess ball. We have a superhero event. We celebrate their birthdays. We give them a photo album at the end of the week. We give them mail every day. We have therapy dogs. You name it, we do it. We have horseback riding. We have all sorts of different fun activities. So as far as roles during that week, we have what we call big campers, and that's what you typically think of like counselors. So we just don't call them counselors because that's not their job. They have enough counselors. They just need people to love on them and have fun with them for the week. And so we have big campers. We have, people can come out to help with the princess ball. They can come out and help with the superhero event. They can help with registration, which is on Sunday this year. They can help with checkout. You name it, we've got the opportunities. That's listed by program. We have by level and program. So that's under Royal Family Kids Camp, of course. We're actually expanding, so we're gonna be serving 13 to 14-year-olds as well, and those are part of our mentoring program. So we're gonna have a separate program called Royal Journey, and so we'll take 20 kids who are 13 and 14 for a week of camp as well this summer. So then we have our fall camp, which is called Journey Weekend. That's for our 12 to 17-year-olds. And I like to say it's kind of like a mini version of Royal Family, but for teenagers. So we do chapel time. Of course, we do chapel at Royal Family as well, of course. Everything we do is laying that foundation. You're loved, you're valued, and God has a purpose and plan. So everything we do, we give them a Bible at our camps, all of that. So that's kind of a given, I guess, what we do at everything we do, but especially at camp. But at Journey Weekend, we have low and high ropes courses. We have, like I said, chapel time. We have art activities. We have a spa time for our older girls. We have off-site camping for our boys. We celebrate their birthdays. So you name it, we do it. We just have a lot of fun, but it's really, again, about building those relationships. And so it's building and nurturing their relationships and just communicating the message that they're loved and they're valued, and we point them to Christ with everything we do. So does that kind of answer it? We do a ton, so I kind of tried to, as high level as possible. It is awesome. It's so fun. Camp is amazing. It really is like the best week ever, or weekend ever.
So, if I was wondering what's the easiest next step to volunteer with any of your organizations, what would that next step be? Each of you.
So I'm not great with math, but what is that, about 60 feet maybe? When we're finished here in a minute, everybody can stand up and they can move in that direction. And we would love to gather your contact information so that we can then keep you up to date on all things related to the ministry work that's happening, and also maybe send you something specific that might lead to you, having something specific you want to ask us related to what we're doing and how you can be involved. Does that sound good, Kevin? Okay.
Yes, please stop by our table. We can involve you in everything, like I said, from a wish list for the Children's Haven all the way up to being a CASA advocate. We'd love to answer your questions. We have information, and my cards are there. And depending on your level or your interests, I'd be more than happy to direct you where your questions need to go.
I would ditto that. So just if we could capture your information, then we can have a conversation and see what the best fit is for you.
Georgia Kids Belong would love for you to follow us as well. We'd love to have your contact information. We'd love for you to just be following our I Belong project and those kiddos and help us advocate for them. We'd love for you to utilize your network and your voice to help us build foster-friendly communities. And I just wanted to say that, and echo, that everybody has a role to play. The Lord has placed you in the position that you're in with all that you have, your talents, your gifts, your resources, your position. You have a role to play. Sometimes it can feel absolutely overwhelming when you step in and start hearing more and your eyes are open to what's happening in Georgia's foster system. It can feel overwhelming. But I'll just urge you to, first of all, just the first step is just to have your eyes open, to be willing to look, to be willing to listen and not look away. God isn't asking us to be saviors. We don't have that in us. That's his role. But he is asking us to step in. And there's just countless ways, like so many that you've heard tonight, that you can step in. So I just encourage you to do that.
Anybody else have any questions at all? Oh. For me? Oh no, that's not how this goes. So the question asked was, I was at the Cherokee Collective, and that's how I know Chaplain Lloyd over there. And we mentioned in our meeting that you never know who's supposed to be in the room with you. And so what Greg Elder mentioned in this meeting was somebody randomly invited me on a mission trip in 2012. I was studying for the LSAT and working as a bartender. So likely candidate to be a missions person, probably not. And somebody invited me to go on a mission trip, and it changed everything about my life. It changed the way I saw the world. It changed the way I saw God. It changed everything. And I remember the power went out a lot, and so I was studying for the LSAT with my little headlamp on my little bunk bed in the orphanage. And so I knew that my path was supposed to be different. I couldn't explain it. I didn't know how. And it took me about 2 years to talk myself into doing it. But 2 years after that first mission trip, I moved down to that orphanage in Honduras and lived there for 6 years. And then I happened to come back during COVID, and the person who held this position before, she was just emailing me to say, welcome back. And she said, wait, I'm retiring. And if you had asked me 10, 15 years ago, would I work at a church? I would have said probably not. But you never know the power of what that one invitation can be. And so that's part of that encouragement, is you never know who in your network might be ready for this and might be ready to go. If that one random person hadn't invited me on that mission trip, I'd probably be some angry lawyer. Yes. Does that answer your question? Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, well, thank you. On behalf of Hillside Church, I'm addressing all of y'all and everybody back there. I want to thank you guys for coming out and being here with us tonight. I thank you guys for all of the work that you're doing and the organizations that you're doing it with and the way that you lead, the impact that you have in this community and the way you do it so selflessly. The thing that impacted me last year from this event the most was to see the people up here supporting one another. When you get a bunch of cooks in the kitchen, sometimes it can very quickly go into what's best for my organization, what's best for me. And what I love about being a part of this is that you don't hear that. You hear, go to Goshen, go to Waymark, do this. And when you're supporting this community, you're supporting the work that they're doing, and that's super impactful to me. So thank you guys, and thank you for being here. And to all of you who came and joined us tonight, thank you for listening and for your heart. I appreciate so much you guys taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. Two kind of quick things. I've got a text message from our children's person, and apparently some kids are asking for cakes. So when you pick up your kids, if you wanna give them some of this, go right for it. It'll be here. We won't take it away. And the second thing is, as all these guys said, I just encourage you to stop by and connect with these organizations before you leave. You don't have to make a decision today. You don't have to sign your name to a contract. It's just you can learn more about what they're doing. So I encourage you to connect with everybody here on your way out. And thank you guys again for being here tonight.